Just on the likes of Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Joel Quansah, Joe Gomez and Cody Gakpo, they all come into this conversation really in one way or another. They all took the chance essentially last night because they were all new into the starting 11. Do you think any of them, Paul, have really, I mean Curtis Jones is probably the standout when it comes to this, but do you think any of them have really put their hand up for selection when it comes to the Arsenal game? I mean, it's difficult for Harvey Elliott because I mentioned this to Chris earlier, his two positions are Mohamed Salah's and Dom Szoboszlai, so it's nigh on impossible for them to sort of drop out, would you say?
Well, it's interesting because, look, there's no chance that Harvey Elliott starts in place of Mohamed Salah against Arsenal. It's just not going to happen. But it is interesting that Salah's position has changed this season. I'm probably the back end of last, certainly as well, where he's not the flying winger anymore, because the big criticism of Harvey Elliott with him being the understudy to Mo Salah was its pace. And Elliott, actually, I think he's improved his pace. I don't know how possible that actually is. He's certainly quicker, but he's not fast. He's not electric. He's not the kind of guy who's going to accelerate away from people. Like Ben Doak's got that. He's got that raw pace. Harvey hasn't got that. But Salah doesn't use that pace in that role anymore for us. And you can even see it last weekend. The time when the ball gets played over to him, and 3 or 4 years ago, Salah's racing onto that, and even he's not there anymore. So the new Mohamed Salah sort of role, for whatever we want to call it, Elliott probably suits that actually better than he would have done 3 years ago. So you can see him flourish in that. It's that role where you play. He will make the pitch big. He will go and stand on the touchline, and that's certainly how he started the game against West Ham, which is great because it just stretches their defence a little bit. But actually with Harvey, he wants to just get on the ball. He wants to pick up pockets of space. He wants to make things happen. And he's got the eye for goal. He nearly scored a screamer in the first half. I was kind of right behind it, obviously opposite end of the pitch, and it just goes wide of the right top hand corner. There's a big question whether that's his best position or the attacking eight. I just think we need to find a way to get him in the team at the moment. And look, Dom Szoboszlai scored a great goal, so I think he's probably just at the right moment to come back to a little semblance of form. But Harvey Elliott's
still got age on his side, hasn't he? I think we've got a couple of years before we need to definitely find his position. But he gets better and better every time I see him. And I'm always amazed by his touch. I mean, the beauty of him when he plays out on the wing is that if you push the ball to him, it's instantly in control all the time, not just once or twice, never ever out of his control. And from that, he's able to jockey past people, and he does have a bit of pace over a few yards, and he can do loads of damage.
It's the all-round stuff as well. He tackles back brilliantly, and again that was a critique of him playing in the midfield, was does he do enough cover when you had Trent at right back, etc. Yeah, he does. He's one of them who I think some players, particularly like flair players, you see it, you can train them into it, and you can have like a hot period where they're under loads of instruction and they know the job and they'll do it. But like when the chips are down and you're tired and it's hard, it's not second nature to them. Harvey Elliott, it is. And the amount of times he'll just go back and be dogged and go and not necessarily like go and put a big slide in and come away with the ball, but he'll go and get a toe on it, he'll knock it away, or he'll win throw-ins, or he'll do whatever. He'll disrupt the play brilliantly. It's one of them. If he had another half a yard of pace and he was, 6 inches taller, you'd be talking about, where can he go with that? He's going to have to continue to work harder than everyone else probably for the rest of his career because of those things. But right now, I think he's our 12th man at the moment. Yes. But the beauty is when we won the title, Oxlade-Chamberlain was our 12th man, but he was never going to be more than that because obviously post injuries he had a ceiling. I don't know how good Elliott can be, but if you told me he was starting against Arsenal, I honestly would not care. I think he'd have a good game.
If you look at his ability to pass the ball, those lovely 1-2s he plays in his positional sense, you're never going to be unhappy about him being in the team.
And that speaks just how impressive he's been. Certainly started last season and what he's done so far this. Very technically proficient footballer, very intelligent footballer as well, and one who we can never doubt his work rate with because he just works his socks off every time.
He's a fan.
Exactly.
Having fans of the team in the team makes a huge difference. Yeah. There's a reason why, the Jay Spearings and John Flanagans and, Ricky Lamberts and all these guys, you'd get a level above these players just because they want to do it for the football club.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do want to have a quick conversation about Joe Gomez as well, because I thought it was another really impressive night for him. Right back, of course. Does this fast forward the conversation about Trent going into midfield permanently? Because obviously we've seen that when Trent comes on, it still feels a little bit experimental when we do it, because we haven't seen it in the biggest of games yet. Obviously Saturday is probably the biggest of games, given where we both are in the league and stuff like that.
Given Martinelli on the left.
Do you think it's time?
Yeah, I do. I think for the Arsenal game in particular, we had good success. We obviously unveiled the inverted Trent against Arsenal at Anfield last season, and it ultimately worked well, as the game wore on. But I think if Alexis McAllister was fit, I don't think you would. I think you'd persist with Trent. But I think Gomez's form has been so good, and I just think as much as Endo's actually makes this a more interesting conversation probably than it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, Trent's been playing more and more of it. He's the most cultured player who can play in that position that we've got. I do wonder whether this might be the game that they go for.
Interesting.
I don't agree particularly. I love Joe Gomez, and I think he is playing out of his skin at the moment and is definitely worth a place. But for me, Trent controls games of football as an inverted player and not as a defensive midfield player. And, I think if you stick him in, when I've seen him go into the DM role, his influence on the game is much, much less. And I think freeing him up is the key to us beating football teams. I think Curtis Jones is key to this. I think if you start Curtis Jones, then I think you can play Trent in that position. Whereas I think if you play Gravenberch, I don't think you can.
We've seen that against Fulham, didn't we? And that's when his influence definitely did wane on the game. He wasn't anywhere near as good, and then we put him into an 8 or stroke 10 by the end of it, and all of a sudden he was brilliant again. So it's a really interesting conversation. I'm sort of in the middle still, but I am edging further and further toward maybe it is time for Trent to go in.
What surprises me is how we solved our poor fullback problem, where we conceded lots of goals because of the way we played as fullback, and we actually solved that by moving him out of being a fullback and left it blank, which is crazy.
No, it's absolutely insane. The big question really is, is the inverted thing actually right for us? Because we and Chris were having this conversation the other day. Liverpool, I don't think have lost. We've lost like one game, I think, since we moved to that sort of system. But also, I've watched us shift formation lots in games of football in that time.
He went back to playing wide. Trent spent the whole of the first half on the right wing with no influence whatsoever on the game.
It's nice to have the flexibility, I suppose, isn't it?